And what does showing up for others look like for you in your business?
Yeah, and so for me, it's really, oh man, it's why it's so easy for me to be so passionate about what I do now. It's understanding that there's like when I look out into the world, all I see is potential. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've been through, what you believe about yourself. When I see you, I see the massive potential inside of you because it's this thing, almost this paradox that MS, that having this diagnosis has allowed me to now see this new paradigm that I have, that the deeper you're suffering, the more crushing the adversity, the greater the potential. It's almost like the analogy of like if you have like a bow and arrow. The further back you pull it, when you release, the further the arrow is going to fly. And so if you find yourself just continually feeling like you're just stacked up against the odds and that you're just under this tremendous amount of pressure and that it feels like all you keep doing is just going backwards, you just keep finding failure after failure. What Once you start to recognize that failure is actually going to be the catalyst for your explosive exponential growth, once you recognize the power that opportunity gives you, you become unstoppable. And you start to realize that the things that you thought were meant to hold you back or meant to hurt you or push you down are actually the very things that were purposed for you, for your growth, for the destination, the journey that you're going on.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Stephen Glaus with us. Stephen, so happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast today. So, my name is Stephen Glaus. I'm a mindset and resilience coach and trainer. And so I have a background in the military, former U.S. Army veteran, got to serve in Iraq and Afghanistan as a drone pilot. And through a lot of twists and turns that were unexpected in life, I got to a position where I was able to leverage a lot of the adversity that I faced in life in a way that can add value to others. And so now I find myself in a position where I'm leaning into building my own business, where I'm adding value to organizations and to individuals, whether it's through workshops on leadership, on growth, on resilience, or if it's on one-on-one and group coaching, finding ways to help others find the opportunity in the challenges they face as well.
Wow, wow. I love that most businesses come from adversity or something that we've gone through
Mm.
or just learned. Maybe it may not be adversity. What was it that you specifically wanted to take from what you're doing to be like, you know what, this is something I think other people would find useful?
Yeah, exactly. So I think this would be the appropriate time to perhaps divulge a little bit of my story, give some context as to really what prompted me to start my own business. And that would have been getting closer and closer to 8 years ago now in 2018. I'd been out of the military for a couple of years, had just finished my master's in business. And so I'd found this really great role with an engineering firm in Southern California as a sort of a hybrid position in between sales and being a drone pilot. So I was a drone pilot in the military, combined that with my business background. I thought I had everything figured out. And so I got to go on this really cool project, this assignment to Japan to give a demonstration for the Japanese government. And it was during that demonstration of that drone that my left foot went completely numb. Like I really couldn't feel it, wasn't really able to understand what was going on. And unfortunately, within about a 3 week time span from that event, that numbness started to crawl all over my body. And before I knew it, I was in a wheelchair, unable to walk, started losing control of my bladder, my bowel, started losing my vision. And I was quickly diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and given a pretty bleak prognosis that I may never be able to walk again. And so it was sort of in that moment that having the proverbial rug pulled from out underneath my feet, I decided that it was time to really lean into control the controllables. And so, through a combination of utilizing and leveraging faith, fitness, nutrition, and mindset, I was able to develop and formulate a strategy that allowed me to irregardless of the outcome, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I could do everything within my power and control to try to leverage my opportunities, but I wasn't really sure if I'd ever be able to get out of the wheelchair. But I was resolute and committed to the process regardless. And so, thankfully, slowly over time, I started to build the ability to start moving again. And thanks to my medical team, thanks to my family, thanks to tons of support in my community through different charities, and through a lot of different opportunities, I was not only able to get out of the wheelchair, I started you not only using the walker, using the cane, but I was eventually able to become fully functional again, and got to the point where I did 3 Ironman triathlons and did all these incredible things that I never would have imagined were possible, especially when I was first diagnosed. And so in this journey throughout all the ups and downs, what I learned along the way is that while your listeners and yourself, while you may not have a chronic illness like maybe multiple sclerosis, at some point, everyone in their life is going to face a point of adversity in their life. They're going to face some sort of challenge, some sort of obstacle that's really going to knock them back. And so I recognize that the same principles, the same mindset that I adopted in combating the adversity I was facing is applicable to anyone facing adversity. And so that's really what prompted me to start my own business called MS Mastery, and to help others. And like I said in the introduction, really find the opportunity that's in the adversity, because it's the things that knock us down that help us to not only get back up, but to grow stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that sometimes if you do get knocked down, it's very hard to get up. I need to find out about your resolve. Like, did that come from military training or just your will to get back up?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's just something happened, something that it was like, I don't know, there was a switch that flipped, there was like a beast that was unleashed. When I was told you have multiple sclerosis, I literally looked my neurologist right in the eyes and I said, "Bring it on." It was in that moment that I all of a sudden, like, a light bulb clicked. Like, it was, I saw the opportunity. Like, I wasn't scared, I wasn't angry, I wasn't dejected. If anything, I was extremely motivated. I saw the opportunity that this is not exactly what I want, but I recognize that there's an opportunity to not only prove to myself, but to prove to others that there is hope, regardless of whatever sentence comes your way, whether it's a chronic life illness, whether it's a family tragedy, whatever that looks like for you, that the worst things that happen don't that doesn't have to be the end of the script. That there can be a story beyond that. And that's what I'm hoping I can prove as I live day to day, that there's always more to the story.
Wow. Wow. All right. So you're literally walking proof that there's more to the story. But how do you help people get out of their own way? Because I find that they're their own problem. They're their roadblock. They're their how are you helping them?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where I'm thankful for a lot of the community support that I have through different coaching communities, as well as like the certification training that I've gone through. So I'm a certified high performance coach through CHPC, as well as a certified John Maxwell team member, coach, trainer, and speaker. And so leveraging all the resources and the training that I've gone through, it's really what I've found when I'm working with clients, whether it be in a training environment, in an organization, or if it's especially if it's one on one. What's really helpful is to understand where a person finds themselves stuck, is to identify the obstacles, identify like what is the gap, like where is the bridge that we need to build. And really that the fundamental concept that we build that structure upon is clarity. Is finding clarity about what matters to you. What is your purpose? What is your vision for your life? And do you have congruence with that? Are you in alignment with that? Are the things that you're doing every single day, are they getting you closer to that vision for yourself, or are you essentially spinning your wheels or even going backwards? And so once somebody has like the clarity of an understanding of like where they want to go and why, it's a lot easier for you to make progress and gain traction. Whereas once you're in alignment with what really matters to you, the energy just flows naturally. You don't have to try as hard anymore. You don't have to like bring the artificial energy. It just becomes more of a reflection of who you are, and it's so much easier to get to go forward towards it.
And what are some everyday things that you suggest or recommend for someone to be able to? I don't know. I know there's something they say that your mind, your food, your body, how you work out, everything works together in order to become the best version of you. What are some things that you'd recommend for someone in order
Yeah,
to be in alignment?
exactly. So aside from like the prototypical, like make sure you have a healthy diet, make sure that
Right.
your inner self dialogue that's squared away. I would say the most important fundamental concept that I focus on that is useful for anyone, regardless of whether, because some people may be limited in their physical capacity. So, like, if I were to tell you or your listeners, make sure you're doing like at least a 2 mile run every day, it may not register for everyone. So, for me, it's more so it boils down to influence. And so, when I say influence, a lot of people think about like the way that you influence others. I
Mm.
come at it from an approach of what you're allowing to influence you. And so
Ooh.
it's we recognizing that your brain is essentially like a sponge. And so whether it's like we all have one, right? But whether it's the phone that you have, the whatever media that you're absorbing, whether or not we recognize it or not, there is a subconscious influence that that is having on your psyche, that that is having on your mindset. So whether it's the social media, whether it's even if it's the interactions you have at work, whether it's the communities that you're involved in, whether even if it's your friends or family, if it's a relationship, a significant other or a spouse, it's recognizing that the way that you're being influenced is going to influence the way that you act, the way that you think, and the way that you show up in the world. So
Mm.
on a daily basis, it goes back to controlling the controllables. So knowing that your brain is a sponge, if you have the ability to direct and control how you're being influenced, so whether that's reading good material, whether that's through meditation, whether that's making sure you're being intentional about the kind of people you're spending time with, it's really controlling those influential factors to make sure that you're in an environment that's going to give you the best chance for success with your mindset. So that it's essentially like you think of like a seed, right? You're not going to plant a seed in the desert and expect it to grow. You're going to
Mhm.
put a seed in good soil with the right nutrients, with water, with sunlight to make sure you optimize its pathway for success. And that's essentially what we want to do with our mindset. We want to put our minds, we want to put our attitudes in the best fertile soil for the best chance for success. And so it's about the environment and it's about the influences that are coming your way.
Oh man, I'm so glad you touched on that. Because right now, where we are in our current climate, it's
Yeah.
hard not to get wrapped up in just wanting to see what's on the news or look on social media, check it out to see, what's going on. What are some things that you think would be beneficial for people to actually be listening to really feed your mind to get you into that state to be in alignment to like grow instead of like a state of fear?
I mean, yeah, there's so many good books out there. Essentially, if you can and this is where like really it boils down to like understanding, it goes back to clarity, really understanding like what matters most to you. Once you have an understanding of that, then you can kind of like target and narrow your focus as to what kind of content you want to be listening to or you want to be reading. Because if I like, for example, if if I told you to start reading books on relationships, but maybe you're not in a relationship, that really wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't really add as much value to you. Whereas, like, if I told you to start reading books or listening to content related to like building wealth and becoming, more financially fit, if money isn't really a motivator for you, that's also not going to register. So
Right.
it's being in alignment with what matters most to you, and then pouring yourself into that passion, becoming like the subject matter expert, so that when somebody else is looking for somebody to influence them, you can be the person that speaks life into them and speak that with competency, with clarity, with confidence. And really that's where like the power of like collaboration comes in, is when you get to be around people that are like-minded, get to be around people that you can just feel their enthusiasm, like feel the energy that they have for that specific interest, it it's so much easier to become aligned with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I do feel like feeding the mind with things like podcasts and all these other avenues of people with positivity, motivation. I mean, you're definitely motivational. You know what I mean? Like having gone through what you've gone through. My question is, in terms of feeding the mind, feeding the body. How did you find the resilience to then say, okay, my next step is to my next challenge is to then run an Ironman? Like I'm still trying to wrap my
Yeah,
head around how you
yeah,
got from where you were to like the next step.
yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because in the beginning it was all about collecting data. So I had a friend that gave me sort of like the acronym ABCD, always be collecting data. And so
Mm,
very early on in the beginning of my journey, I had no idea what multiple sclerosis was. I had it confused perhaps with muscular dystrophy. I didn't really understand the disease, and so my first objective was just to absorb as much information as possible because I was confident that there may not be a cure to MS, but there was at least going to be I was going to find the best pathway, the optimal pathway for success. And so I became obsessed with reading every single resource available on MS, whether it was books, whether it was personal stories, whether it was anything like any resources available from from charities or like from peer reviewed resources, whatever that was. I wanted to learn as much and become essentially a subject matter expert on the disease I was living with. And so once I understood the enemy, for essentially, once I understood like the weaknesses of the enemy, like where I could perhaps gain leverage, that's where I started to attack. And so it became clear to me very early on that the best pathway for me, like the lowest hanging fruit, was going to be my diet, was controlling my nutrition. And so it became like essentially like an overnight, like cold turkey cut for me, where I went on a completely non-inflammatory diet. I went gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, caffeine-free. I eliminated like any source of inflammation from my diet because I wanted to make sure that I gave myself the best chance for success. And for me, I don't know if it's just part of like the military mindset that I adopted or the resolution that I had for my objective, but there was no compromise. Like I didn't wake up one day and say, "Man, I'm really craving like some a sugary like treat today." Like for me, there that was an absolute like no. Like I had drawn the battle line and there was going to be no turning back. Because for me, I had a clear vision in my mind of what the future could look like. Being in a wheelchair, I saw a future in which this is the interesting thing is I didn't see myself as an Ironman, but I saw myself as maybe being able to walk my daughter down the aisle for her wedding. I saw myself as being able to be able to play with my son because I got diagnosed literally just about 10 days before my son was born. And so I knew my son was going to be coming into his life growing up with a dad that and this is the vision I didn't want. I didn't want him growing up with a dad that was always in a wheelchair, a dad that always had to say no, a dad that couldn't play with him. And so for me, it was I was extremely motivated by and purpose to be able to show up for my kids in the future. And so that's what kept me motivated. That's what kept me driving forward. So what was interesting is that as I started gaining function back, I got to the point uh, probably about a year and a half after I was diagnosed. I was walking with a cane, and I had an appointment. This is a very fateful day. I had an appointment at the local Veteran Affairs Hospital, and it was to go see a chiropractor because walking with with gait issues and with like a drop foot, I started having like a lot of chronic lower back pain. And so the VA got me squared away with a chiropractor, and this was my first time getting to meet this person. And his name was Dr. Kevin Long. And so I ended up showing up that day very exasperated. I was having a pretty lousy day when it came to like my functionality. Like it was just very difficult. I was out of breath, and I was barely able to walk. And so I he opens the door. I walk into his office, and he kind of just like he analyzes me. He's like looking me up and down. And so he sits down and like very resolutely just says to me, I want to help you. And I was like, well, I guess that's why I'm here. Like, I guess you're here to like, do a back adjustment, whatever that looks like. And he's like, no, 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 no. He's like, well, we'll get to that. He's like, but I really want to help you. I was like, okay. He's like, but I'm afraid to say it. And so I was a little perplexed, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm all ears. Like, you don't have to be gun shy. Like, whatever you got, just shoot it to me straight. Like, just let me have it. And so he asked a question that sort of changed my trajectory. It changed everything for me. And he asked me, "Have you ever heard of an Ironman?" And so what was amazing to me is when he saw that man walking through his door with a cane, barely able to walk, feeling very dejected and defeated, he didn't see somebody with a disability. He saw an Ironman walking through his office. And so it was that vision, that belief that he had in me that incited a greater sense of vision and belief in myself. And call me crazy, but I went home that evening, barely able to walk, not really knowing how to swim, not even having a bicycle. I went home that evening and signed up for a full distance Ironman because
What?
I, I having the belief from someone else, because he had done multiple Ironman triathlons, having the belief and the vision from someone else, and going back to like basically being in that position again. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be successful. I didn't know what the result was going to look like, but I knew I was purposed to try, and I knew that there was going to be learning, there was going to be opportunities for growth, there was going to be essentially an opportunity for me to attach myself to a purpose, to a mission again. And that's one of the things for like anybody in the community that perhaps is listening, like will resonate well. Like as a veteran, like being in the military, as you transition from military to back to civilian life, that's one of the hardest things to lose. Is like when you're in the military, it's so easy to attach yourself to a calling that's greater than yourself. And when you lose that, it's very easy to get into like a downward spiral of like of mental attrition. And so being able to attach myself to that mission again, to something bigger than myself, something even outside my realm of contemplation. Like before I walked into that office, I couldn't see myself as an Ironman. I didn't have that faith or that belief. But walking out of that office, all of a sudden I saw things differently. And so this is why it's so critical. It goes back to what I talked about, like the how you're being influenced.
Mm-hmm.
If I walked into that office and if Kevin told me, hey, you need to slow down, you need to, be careful, take things easy, and who knows where I'd be today. But
Wow.
because of the way that he influenced me and the way that he saw me, the way that he spoke life into me, he's I can give massive credit to him for the reason that I have multiple Ironman medals in my closet now, right? And so the
Wow.
reason I'm able to step forward with this new sense of hope and this mission, this purpose to give others hope is because of the way that I was influenced. And so for anybody, that's listening, that's if you're trying to build a business and you feel stuck, do a quick analysis, a gut check of who do you have in your life and
Mm-hmm.
how are they speaking towards you? Do they believe in you, or are they reminding you of all the obstacles, of all the reasons why it's impossible, all the reasons why you might fail?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that person in your life that's painting the vision for you, giving you all the reasons why you're going to be successful, all the reasons why your business is going to thrive, that you're going to make a difference? And that
Mm-hmm.
can really be the make or break. That can be the make or break. And if you don't have that person, make that your number one mission right now.
Yeah.
Find that person who's going to speak life into you.
Yeah. In every area, speak life into your health, speak life into your every area. I'm sitting here thinking about it. You're so right. There's so many times you go to the doctor and you hear, well, right now you should take it easy. I, that is so incredible that he saw you and saw that and put that word into your that word into your heart and made it your new mission. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so thankful and grateful for people like him. I had a lot of people along the way. Like I love to tell the story too. Like I didn't really know how to swim, and so I was going to a local gym doing like fitness classes, and there was this older gentleman that was always there, and it was like the day after I'd signed up for my Ironman. He could tell I was a little like little giddy and excited. He's like, "Well, what's going on?" So I told him what I was doing, but then I told him about my concerns. I was like, "But I don't really know what to do about the swim. Like, I can maybe tread water, but I can't swim more than like a lap before I feel like I'm gonna drown." And so he just kind of with like this sly smirk, he's like, "Well, I can help you." And so there was a pool at our local gym that just had like two lanes, like two for us to swim in. And so he said, he's like, "After class, let's go to the pool. I'll help you out." And so what I didn't recognize, and he was probably like in his mid to late 60s, what I didn't recognize is that this man that was willing to offer me some help, it wasn't until maybe after a month and a half of working with him that he finally disclosed to me that he was a former U.S. Navy SEAL. And so,
Stop.
yeah. And so, if there was anybody who was going to be able to help me swim, it was this guy. And so, it just all the serendipity. It's almost like when you become invested in like it's like the power of manifestation. When you declare like of when you declare the with confidence the mission or the purpose that you have and the vision that you have, when you become aligned to that, when you have clarity in what it is you're here for, when you start speaking that out into the universe, the right people are going to show up. It just starts to happen. It starts to happen. What you put out into the world starts to reflect back into you. And so
Mhm,
it's really adopting that mindset that even when you don't feel it, because that's going to happen, right? We're going to show up some days, we're going to wake up some days where like it just, whether it's because of the lack of momentum that you feel or you keep running into obstacles, it's going to be easy to like fall prey to that defeatist mindset that just says, I can't, this isn't worth it or I can't do it today. But if you just continually just show up and even in spite of how you're feeling, you just continue to manifest what
mhm,
you believe in, the vision that you have, the purpose that you have, the right people, the right opportunities, just the right things are just going to continue to happen. And
mhm.
it's amazing. Like of course, like we all say, hindsight is 2020. But like
Yeah.
when I reflect back on like all the things that happened for me, that that seemed like to be just like the right thing happening at the exact right time. It's amazing because I never could have orchestrated that myself.
Wow. Well, I like how you say that it happened for you. If you had to go back to the version of yourself before, what's some advice that you'd give yourself? Because you're very strong-willed.
Yeah.
You have great conviction. But if there's anything that you think would have helped propel you even faster, what would that be? What would that look like for you?
hmm And so this is unfortunately something I didn't learn until after doing maybe my second or third Ironman. Is that two things? It's it's not about me and it's not up to me. In that
Wow.
when I crossed the Ironman finish line, there was also a part of me that's because of a lot of the self doubt and the like the low self worth that I dealt with mentally, that I was convinced that if I was able to prove to myself that I could do an Ironman, that all of a sudden I would feel better about myself. And I
Mm,
became extremely disappointed when I had that finish line moment and nothing changed. I was like, wait a minute, this was supposed to fix everything. And so
wow.
I started to recognize that really I became in, even though it like as sort of a extenuation of my efforts to become an Ironman, I was inspiring and motivating others. I wasn't really focused on others. I was so focused and concerned about like what I could do, how I could strive, how I could achieve, that I lost focus of what really mattered. And so now that I'm on the other side of that journey of learning the hard way, um, I no longer is like while I still might have the ambition to do another Ironman, if I were to step into something like that, I would want it to be about others. I would want it to be about how I could impact others and the way that I can include others in my journey. I think that's really what I'm trying to articulate is that you don't have to do this alone. This
Mm-hmm.
journey, especially like in being an entrepreneur, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we have this perhaps this conviction or this premonition going into it that like it all depends on you and that we have to do it by ourselves to show everybody that like we're capable, that like I can do this, I can make it. I'm a self-made woman or a self-made man, that like I did it. When really it's not about you and it's not up to you. You need other people. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way to be successful is to show up for other people.
Ooh.
You can show up for yourself and that's going to work for a little bit, but ultimately you're going to be capped by your own abilities. And
Mm-hmm.
it's when you find other people to support, when you recognize your purpose to support them, that that exponentially increases the lid of your potential.
Wow. Wow. And what does showing up for others look like for you in your business?
Yeah, and so for me it's really, oh man, it's why it's so easy for me to be so passionate about what I do now. It's understanding that there's like when I look out into the world, all I see is potential. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've been through, what you believe about yourself. When I see you, I see the massive potential inside of you because it's this thing, almost this paradox that MS, having this diagnosis has allowed me to now see this new paradigm that I have, that the deeper your suffering, the more crushing the adversity, the greater the potential. It's almost like the analogy of like if you have like a bow and arrow, the further back you pull it, when you release, the further the arrow is going to fly. And so if you find yourself just continually feeling like you're just stacked up against the odds and that you're just under this tremendous amount of pressure and that it feels like all you keep doing is just going backwards, you just keep finding failure after failure. What Once you start to recognize that failure is actually going to be the catalyst for your explosive exponential growth, once you recognize the power that opportunity gives you, you become unstoppable. And you start to realize that the things that you thought were meant to hold you back or meant to hurt you or push you down are actually the very things that were purposed for you, for your growth, for the destination, the journey that you're going on. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to spend, it's almost like a cake in the oven, right? You've got to let that cake cook. You can't pull it out too soon, right? Or it's gonna be all like soupy and mushy and like it's not gonna be useful for anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you gotta spend time in the oven. You gotta spend time in the furnace, being refined and be, and cooking long enough for you to have enough experience to go out and to finally add some value.
Wow. And how does entrepreneurship differ from the training and everything that you've been through?
Yeah. And so I remember I had a coach for myself when I first started like getting ready to launch my business, and his words kind of echo in my mind every day. Because at this point in time, I had done 3 Ironman triathlons, a couple half Ironmans, and he looked at me and he said, "Stephen, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life."
Mhm.
He said, "Take all the Ironmans you've done." He said, "Combine them together and then increase the difficulty by 100." And so I wasn't sure if I believed him at the time. I wasn't, because I was like, I don't know if you know how hard an Ironman is. Like, I don't know if you understand like what that requires. But the thing is an Ironman, you train for it for maybe like 6 to 12 months, and the event itself, for me, I'm slow because just for me, it's not about racing; it's about finishing. So for me, an Ironman probably going to take me somewhere between 15 and 16 hours. Right, that's about my average time. And so that's really challenging. That takes a lot of my energy, a lot of my time. But building a business, being an entrepreneur, you got to show up daily. You got to show up every day. There is no like punch in, punch out. You're on the clock 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
and the level of your success is determined upon the way that you show up. It's determined upon the way that you're influenced. It's determined upon essentially the way that you stay committed to the
Mm-hmm.
process. And so there's going to be days where you feel disqualified. There's going to be days when you want to quit. There's going to be days when you just, it's using like the race analogy where you get hurt, you get wounded, and you literally you can't race for a while. And you've
Mm-hmm.
got to find a way to stay motivated, to stay purpose, so that when you heal up, when you get back into the race, that you can keep going. And so becoming an entrepreneur, like it is not for the faint of heart.
No,
You have
no.
to go into it with a mindset that you are going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to find periods and trials and seasons where nothing seems to be working, where there is no momentum. If anything, you feel like you're going backwards, and you're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to have to become comfortable with that, because there's a reason why there's such a high burnout rate
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs, for business owners. There's a reason
Yeah.
why. It's perhaps one of the hardest things you could
Someone
possibly
will
do,
do. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's safe. It's so much easier to go get that 9 to 5 job. It's
Mm-hmm.
There's so
You
much
know what?
security. There's stability in that.
There's a roadmap
Yeah, that's
that
right.
someone has already trudged the ground, and they've already their footprints, their footprints already there, and all you're doing is following the proven method. When you're an entrepreneur and you're launching from start, you have no roadmap. You're building it as you go. You're testing to see what's working, and you're wearing all the hats.
That's right.
It is it is something that it, that is what needs to be taught in school, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because you get a well-rounded education when you decide to become an entrepreneur, because you're literally learning as you go.
Yep. You got to do everything. And that's what's so funny too is I tell people I have a master's in business. I have an MBA. And what's so ironic is they never taught me anything about starting my own business.
No, no. Like it's on the paper, but it's like they throw you in, and it's learning as you go, because guess what?
Mhm.
Every business is different.
Yep.
There are some fundamentals, but every business is essentially completely different in how it's going to be run, how you are going to add your thing to that specific business. You know, if I had to ask you now, like there are two other people going out for, let's say someone's looking for your services, and there are two people. What differentiates you from that other person in your business? You
Yeah.
know,
So as
go
far
ahead.
as you're asking like what differentiates me as like a coach and as a trainer,
Correct.
like what
Like what
yeah.
differentiates you as a coach and trainer from your counterparts? What
Yeah.
makes you unique?
And so this is what I love. Actually, it's something that I've recognized. It perhaps this is unique to coaching, but oftentimes I would see like other coaches, other speakers, other trainers that were really successful, and I would admire them. But sometimes I would grow, and I'll be honest about this. I would grow almost like a sense of jealousy. Like, what
Mm,
what makes them so special? Like how are they so successful? Why do people gravitate towards them? And all of a sudden, as I have become more purpose to focusing on others rather than myself, focusing on serving and supporting others. And that's really like for me like my three core fundamentals that drive me every single day is belief, service, and surrender. It's having belief in myself, belief in others, knowing that my purpose is to show up, is to serve, and then surrendering to whatever, for me it's faith, for whatever God is going to put in my life, and surrendering to that and not being concerned with the output but the input. And so once I became ingrained in those three principles, I started to recognize that I am not in competition with any of these other coaches.
mhm.
I know that might sound counterintuitive,
No, you're
but
not.
but I've learned that I have my people, just as
Mhm.
you have your people, and
Mhm.
another person might have their people. I'm not going to be able to connect with the people you can connect with.
Mhm.
They're going to gravitate towards you because of you, because
Mhm.
there's only one of you.
Mhm.
And the people that are going to gravitate towards me are going to gravitate towards me because I am me. I don't have to be anybody else. I simply just have to lean into who I am and
Mhm.
live that out as authentically, as vulnerably, and as powerfully as possible. And so when it comes to why, what differentiates me, it sounds so simple and basic, but because there's only one of me.
Yeah, love
There's
it.
only one of me.
And you're
That's
not
it.
wrong. Listen, you're not wrong. Your life story, your challenges, your everything that you have done in your life makes you you. And there's no one that's going to have the same exact story. And that story in itself, when poured into someone else, motivates, lifts them, and helps them be better. And that's so awesome about your story, because even listening to you, I'm like, yeah, I can feel your energy, I can feel your passion, and that's gonna help people know, what, this is my guy, this is who I need to be speaking to, because I feel like he's the best person to help me. How did you find the best people to help you?
Oh, ah, I've it's hard to not say like it's providence, serendipity, it's luck. I don't know, whatever it's fate, whatever you want to call that. But once you get to the point where you surrender yourself to your vision, once you have clarity on like your purpose, like why you're here, it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to what I had mentioned earlier. The right people are going to show up at the right time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like my chiropractor. It's like I have a coach, a mentor that showed up at the perfect time for me when I was at a really low point in my life and has stayed by my side through thick and thin. It's it's those influential figures, those factors in your life that you have to keep, continue to keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open for the people that show up in your life, and really take time to pause and appreciate the people that are trying to support you, and
Mm-hmm.
remember that you don't have to do this alone. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do this alone.
And how are you? You're a people person, right?
Yeah.
How are you managing with the introduction of AI, and how do you feel like that's gonna
Mm.
go? And how are you integrating it into your business? I know that's a three-part question.
Yeah, so well, I'll say like my knee jerk reaction. I'm not sure it's because I'm an older millennial, right? So I'm 34 years old, and the my knee jerk reaction with like the advent of AI was a little bit of like grief. It seemed that like AI was taking away a part of like the creative expression of who I am. But once I started to understand that AI is simply just, it's almost like a collaborative partner. It's like a tool that you can use to leverage and actually increase and amplify who you are. Then I started to become more excited about its potential. And so I now leverage AI as a way to sort of amplify my voice, to broadcast myself, to also help me save time. So when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the way that I structure my summaries or the way that I'm able to d- start to develop the coursework that I do for my workshops, it's ensuring that essentially, it's weird to use this word, but make sure that you have the appropriate like dialogue, the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue with AI, so that AI becomes essentially a authentic reflection of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Not to allow AI to do everything for you, but to AI essentially to become a part of you, an extension of
Mm-hmm.
who you are. So that
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like when I have like a one-on-one conversation with someone, I want the exposure, their experience of whether they've seen me on like the internet, the videos that I do, whether it's the articles that I write, whatever it is. I want that to be authentic to the point, so when they're sitting in a chair in front of me, that there is no difference. The dialogue feels just as natural as it did with AI as it does with me. That
Mm-hmm.
AI is just an extension of who I am. And so that's going to take time to build authenticity with AI, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely it's so worth maintaining it's almost like it's protecting your brand in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's protecting like who you are. You don't want something else to replace or to be able to duplicate what you bring. Going back to the uniqueness of you,
Mm-hmm.
you want to protect you, your identity. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if at any point you come to the decision that like if you feel like AI is sort of replacing who you are, maybe you shift gears, maybe you try something else, maybe you try to inject more of yourself into it, or you go cold turkey for a little bit and go back to like experiencing life without AI. So
Mm-hmm.
it really boils down to having a greater understanding and appreciation for the uniqueness of who you are
Mm-hmm.
and ensuring you
Mm-hmm.
protect that at all costs.
Wow. What is the most shocking thing that you have learned throughout your entire journey, this journey?
Wow.
What do you think is the thing that has shocked you the most?
What has shocked me the most? Yeah, it's a powerful question. I think I've just been shocked by, and this is like where I'm gonna like lean into like being authentic to who I am. Is just like my faith journey. For me, I've just been shocked at how God has worked in my life and how He has continually brought me in front of the right people at the right time at the right place. Especially in times when I felt so helpless, in times when I felt like there is no way of quote unquote escape. At just the right time, at the right place, He's either provided the resource, the provision, or the right person in my life to keep me going. And so that is I've in some ways I've now learned to I have a greater sense of peace, appreciation, and almost like this weird, twisted, diabolical like excitement that I get when I'm in places of vulnerability, when I'm in places where like there's a lot of anxiety or uncertainty, because I know it's in those moments that God is going to come in and surprise me. And so I like surprises. So in some ways, like I get excited knowing that a surprise is coming my way.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What are some tips that you think you want to leave our audience with today that you think would get them from where they are, wherever they are, to the next place of their journey?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like the best thing you can do, like perhaps a practical exercise that can leave your audience is going back to the beginning of this conversation, it's relates to clarity. And so I would recommend for anybody that's struggling to identify like what truly matters in your life, go through just grab like a blank sheet of paper, and I recommend like don't use your phone, don't use your laptop, a device. Like grab like real paper and a real pencil and a real pen and start to write down the words that express the best of who you are and also the best of who you want to be. Like when you
Mm,
close your eyes and you paint a vision of like what does the future you look like 5 to 10 years from now. Just start like spaghetti on the wall. Just start throwing down every word that pops into your mind. Like anything that comes up, anything that's positive, anything that you strive to be or wish you could be, put down all those words. And then so once you've filled up the sheet of paper, and that's the objective. Like fill it up, the whole thing. Like leave no stone unturned. Examine it, and there's going to be three words that pop out to you. Three words, and circle those words. Circle those words. Those are the three words that are going to essentially, and this is the exercise that helped me discover belief, service, and surrender. Once you understand it, it basically becomes like an ethos, like a mission statement that you can use and you can repeat in your mind, you can meditate with, and it becomes essentially like a compass calibration for you. So that when you start to lose your way, you're like, remember, I'm here, I believe, I'm here to serve, and I will surrender. And whatever those words end up being for you, it keeps you centered when you lose your way. It gets you back on track when you're feeling discouraged. It reminds you of the best of who you can be and who you will become. And so that would be my recommendation, perhaps a little practical exercise your audience can use today.
I love it. How can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and share the perhaps it's like in the show notes. I'll give it to you. It's like my Linktree app, but I post like daily content, motivational content. I also you can go to msmastery.com, my website, where you can. I'm actually offering free 30-minute strategy sessions right now for anybody who's looking to get more clarity, who's looking to find more alignment and vibrancy in life. So if that's something that sounds of value or of interest to you, please use that link. You'll find it on my website. It'll pop up right away. And I look forward to talking to some of your audience members.
Absolutely. Everyone, Stephen, thank you so much. It was an amazing conversation today. I got lost in our conversation.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so much. This has been incredible. Embrace the day, everyone.
thank you. Thank you guys.